Welcome back. You're watching The Daily Report with me, George Maringa, and Catherine Simaloy on sign language interpretation tonight. We were having a conversation earlier. We had the prelude with Professor Kagwanja, who is still here in studio. Thank you so much for staying with us, Prof. And we are also delighted this evening to have Dr. Hassan Kanenje, Director, Horn International Institute for Strategic Studies, as well as Benson Cheserek, Business and Political Analyst based in North Carolina in the USA, where they have a new president. Benson, let me come back to you. Earlier on, you were speaking about the mood and the reception of this inauguration and Trump season 2. How is this being received, especially in your state?
Thank you, George. North Carolina is one of the big agriculture states here in the South. And as you go to Georgia, there are some states in terms of sweet corn. So the immigration enforcement, the ones that have just been signed, executive orders, goes in a lot of anxiety in the immigrant community. And that is where it is coming from. The program that was started by Obama called DACA to protect children of immigrants who came here when they didn't have the paperwork. There is a fear that that one might be completely wiped out of the books right now by Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. So those are the two major issues that I think it is affecting immigrants here. That is the perception from the immigrant community or people without proper documentation. On the Americans themselves, George and your panelists here, America, I don't know, I will disagree with your guest briefly say that America is in decline. America is not in decline. America has peaked in its development. And there is a perception that this country, they have achieved everything possible on this planet. I mean, if you think about every kind of technological innovation, they have been there. They have been there and they have been there. So what people perceive as a decline is maybe their inability to do anything extra about what they have achieved. And they are still there. I mean, if you look at the security of this country, it is the country with the highest amount of finances in terms of military and all the complexes, 800 billion. You talk about their roads, you talk about the water, you talk about infrastructure in terms of anything they have achieved. I don't know what is the test of now them being declined, but that is subject that can be discussed for a very long time. Then we talk about two things that are going to be probably impactful to Africa. There is one area that we need to work to look into, especially with this new Donald Trump administration, and especially the public of the State Department. The State Department is responsible for many of the projects that are being done in Africa, including the AIDS research in Kenya here. If Donald Trump is going to affect those kind of programs, then we might be a lot of changes and a lot of difficulties in fulfilling some of the important programs that are being run, especially on medical, those that are being done in consumer. The security strategic interest of the U.S. also is important. I think some of the security corporations that we might be up or might continue because U.S. interest is always on security. Mm-hmm. When you look at LAMO and all those other things that are happening in Africa. A very important thing that African leaders should watch, and I mentioned this during our previous time here, is the ACOR program. African Group and Opportunity Act was enacted almost 20 years ago, and it has never fully benefited Africa, specifically in our powers. There are still areas that needed to be worked on by the African leader, and during Donald Trump administration. So if AGOA is going to be cancelled, it might be an impactful thing on the business community, on the trade and business interest, the African community. That's an area that I think we should pay attention to.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Dr. Kanenje, when you look at what you were speaking earlier on and you combine with perhaps the expectations, and we did see there was quite a support for Donald Trump outside America, even in the African continent, even in Kenya, guys were really vouching for him. Do you think that there is any supposed impact of his presidency, and to what extent?
George, it is true there was a lot of enthusiasm about Donald Trump, which the African continent, especially, not so much because the question that he was going to do something great, but I think it might be some disappointment that Africans and a lot of the global south actually had in Joe Biden's administration. Not just because the wars were going on in the Middle East, elsewhere, but the almost complete lack of focus and attention paid to African crises, humanitarian situations, and other aspects. Now, it is important for us to understand that certain aspects are going to suffer, as my colleague has mentioned, and which typically suffers under administration. And that has to do, for instance, public planning or active health. Generally, Republicans tend to get way less in Africa when it comes to that. The climate agenda, of course, is something that is not top right for Donald Trump. And certain aspects of health may also, suffer as a result. But I think from a strategic perspective, peace and security matters. I think the state is going to remain engaged with Kenya. During the Senate confirmation hearings for Marco Rubio, I think he pointed out that Kenya has been in Haiti and indicated a desire to ask other member states, including Western countries, to perhaps chip in to contribute forces to that effect. So we expect there's a likelihood for an expanded engagement in that, just because it's going to help the United States be able to undertake that job. But I think also because the Biden administration, despite the commitments they had made, they struggled even to get Congress to support the Kenyan mission. And there's a likelihood that has affected the full deployment of the Kenyan contingent in Haiti. So we expect from that strategic perspective, the relationship is going to remain strong. On trade and investment, Donald Trump had initiated, together with Nairobi, a process and discussions of deepening trade engagements. Of course, that drew some criticism and reservations in part because of Africa concern. What impact that was going to have? Considering the exceptional nature of Trump, there's a likelihood that Kenya being.
Okay, Dr. Let me take it from you for a minute. I'll be coming back to you. Prof, when you listen to, and you are among the Kenyans that I'm saying are supporting Donald Trump, what ramifications does his leadership portend, the Trump administration portend for the African continent, and then when we look at the Kenyan context?
I think the key thing to underline is that Donald Trump is a businessman. And as a businessman, he has shown that his main focus in this era is productivity. What he's talking about, the bringing America's golden age. And the strategies he's applying are those of a businessman. Businessmen don't take their companies to war, unlike warriors. That's why he's talking about, if you remember that beautiful phrase he used, that he's going to win over the wars that are ongoing on, meaning ending the wars that are there, and he's going to ensure that there is that he does not declare new wars. One of the main arguments made by the Republicans at one point was that America has declined because it has waged war in every corner of the world, which I tend to agree with. And that has had a cost on America's greatness, because the moment you become the warrior of the world and the rest are developing, then you start to lose. Inversely, if you look at China, from 1980 to date, China has never gone to any war that you can say this is China versus this. Skirmishes here and there, but never major wars. And therefore, China has had the longest period of prosperity, over 40 years. And that is how it has managed to catch up with America and to become a superpower. So China has actually invested in peace in order to develop. And that seems to be the strategy that Donald Trump wants to achieve. And that's good to the Africans, that if we can have peace for at least a straight 5 years without our wars, then many parts of Africa would rise to greatness. The other point that has come from his regime is emphasis on trade. And I think for Africa, he's going to revitalize AGOA, that agreement which was started by Clinton.
Yes.
And it's one of the longest legal framework that has been there for Africa and America to engage. And I think it was there, but under Joe Biden, it did not come out as prominently as it was during the first Trump. And we look forward to it. But I think Trump is going to emphasize more on bilateral relationship with African countries. Mm-hmm. And you remember Kenya and America were negotiating a bilateral arrangement with America. That didn't go down well with some of Kenya's neighbors. But sometimes you have to say, is the national interest prevail over everything else? We are in East African community because it serves our interest. We are in IGAD because it serves our interest. And therefore, the interests of Kenyans are very, very important. In any case, we are under Kenya Kwanza, meaning Kenya first kind of government. So not very different from the populism of Donald Trump based on American interest. Okay. I think security is going to be a key issue. Mm-hmm. And Africa has, as I said earlier, witnessed a kind of a rebound of the age of violence in many ways, largely associated with the terrorism, associated with the conflict as in Sudan and Ethiopia, but more increasingly, even sectarian conflict, as we are seeing the resurgence of Mungiki and other militias in stable countries like Kenya. So if that environment of non-violence, and for Trump, he's not just looking at it globally, he's even focusing on American neighborhoods. The communities, of blacks and others, the cabals and criminals that are undermining, security of the country. And I think that is the spirit that he'll exude globally, and I think that's important. So I did not get the kind of threatening remarks from the first Trump. The second Trump is a little bit softer. A little bit more promising, a little bit more reconciliatory, except when it comes to, Joe Biden. I think their rivalry was deep, and he didn't manage to hide it. He talked about the failure of the past government, even to deal with small local crises like the fires in Los Angeles. The tornadoes in North Carolina. In other words, these vagaries, devastated America as Biden watched. In other words, America burned as, Biden dithered. And that's simply the message that Trump was sending. So I think Africa can look at this, era peace-free. Remember, and I think one would really underrate this, Trump signed the decree that America from today hence until he's in office has only two genders, male and female. I am sure wherever President Yoweri Museveni was, that was really a happy moment, because he's the single African president who has suffered, including cut in foreign aid, support, America, Uganda bilateral relationship, and he was used as the dummy, basically to scare. Yeah. It was a public spectacle that Joe Biden's America was using basically to tell the rest of Africa that you have to tolerate, mm-hmm. And toe the line of this American, culture where you have more than two genders. Uh-huh. Obviously, the Bible provides for two gender, and I'm a Christian, so forgive me. Uh-huh. But this is something that is going to happen. What is it? that in Donald Trump's America, we are not going to be defined by the messianic spread of American culture to the rest of the world, but we are going to be based on what is mutual between us. The trade, security of the world, our security, it's going to be about America looking after itself and us in Africa looking ourselves. I guess this is going to be less imperialism, quoted in the language of human rights and whatever rights. We are going to look more into the public than the bedrooms. America has been too much focused on the bedrooms rather than on the public space, which I think for a superpower, that was stooping too low.
Indeed. Let's take another break. When we come back, we continue with our conversation on Trump's taking over as U.S. president, the 47th president of the U.S. Please stay with us.